Hello and welcome back to another lesson of St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. My name is Dave Palmer and we are continuing to prepare ourselves for digging into the Summa Theologia. That's just a couple of classes from now, but there are a couple of key words that I want to tell you about that if you don't understand these words, you are not going to understand the Summa Theologia. And so the first of the key words that you really need to understand, it's a big 6-syllable word. It sounds very fancy, but it's called Epistemology, okay? Epistemology. And again, if you don't understand what this word means, you're going to have a very, very difficult time digging into the Summa and understanding what St. Thomas Aquinas had in mind in writing it in the first place. So a definition of the word epistemology basically is knowledge, the science of knowledge, the study of knowledge, epistemology, okay? What can we know? It says the branch of philosophy concerned with the nature and scope of knowledge. Notice also it says the limitations of knowledge. That's very important as well, not only for us, but for other creatures as well. Okay, so that's basically all you need to know as far as the definition. It is the study of knowledge. But how does that pertain to our life and also to the study of the Summa? Well, first of all, this is a diagram of the Summa Theologia. And if you look at about 10 o'clock in this diagram, you see the word God. The Summa begins with God, and we're going to get into that once we dig into the Summa, okay? Who is God? The Summa also ends with God. And this middle part of the Summa, all the rest of it, is our return to God. How do we come to know God? Okay, that's where epistemology comes in so handy. And so this diagram, don't worry about it too much. I just want you to see how it's cyclical, begins and ends with God, and that ties in very well to what we need to know about epistemology. I would say if I had to summarize the Summa in one verse of Scripture, this would be the one. John 17:3 says, "This is life eternal, that they may know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent." Okay, the whole Summa is about coming to know God. And that is the purpose of our lives, and that's why I like the Summa so much. The Summa is a blueprint for us to achieve that for which we were created, and that is to come to know God. And that's why if you don't understand epistemology, if you don't understand the science of knowledge, you're not going to understand the Summa Theologia. I love this very simple little diagram because it shows epistemology kind of in a very simple fashion, okay? The little girl sees a dog, she thinks of the dog, okay, and there's a lot to say about this, but she basically has an idea about the dog. That is knowledge. She has come to a knowledge of this dog. Now, granted, it's kind of a simple illustration of it, but we are beings in our nature who can know a lot of things, okay? The Summa has a big segment on human nature that's really, really great, and it has a lot on the epistemology of human nature. But it's also important, and Thomas goes into great depths to explain this in the Summa, that you understand how does our knowledge differ from angelic knowledge, okay? The angels come to know things in a very different way. In fact, even to say to come to know things isn't always the case with angels, but I don't want to get too much into it right now. So how do the angels know differently than us? How do dogs know things? What can they know? Even a border collie, which is typically considered to be the smartest of all dogs out there, okay? What do they know, and how is their ability to perceive the exterior world different than ours, okay? This has to do with epistemology, and there's a lot in the Summa about that. We're going to get into all this as we dig into it. There's been a lot of debate about giving rights to animals like gorillas and apes because they think that they're so close to human beings, right? Well, this is where epistemology comes in. What can an ape, a gorilla, know, and how does it differ from human nature, from angelic nature, and also grasshopper nature? Okay, what can a simple creature like a grasshopper know? All right, I'm just going to leave it at that because that's just a teaser for what we're going to be studying in the Summa, okay? Here's another little illustration about epistemology, okay? And it ties in very much into how the Summa applies to our everyday life. Here's a picture of a man and a woman in a convertible, right? You see this image, you come to use your ability to know things to have an idea of this, what it means. You don't know these people. It doesn't really mean a whole lot to you other than the fact that maybe it conjures up ideas of freedom or fun or the open road. But if I were to give another picture of a couple in a convertible, how about this one? Now, if you are knowledgeable about history and what happened on November 22nd, 1963, this image of a couple in a convertible will all of a sudden bring a lot of background, and it means a lot more because you know that this is John F. Kennedy. You know this was moments before the tragic assassination, and he's beside his wife Jackie, okay? So all of a sudden you have a flood of information and knowledge, and you know a lot more about this picture, okay? So what does this have to do with the Summa and with epistemology and all that? Well, here it is. In everyday life, we come across things that we come to know, things like a butterfly. Your level of knowledge of this may differ depending on what you see. Is it just a creature? Is it just a butterfly? Or do you tie it back to its creator? Do you tie it back to an all-loving God who allows us to experience beautiful things like butterflies and like the order and beauty of nature with ducks flying south in this V pattern? And you know, if you know anything about this, how organized and beautiful it is. All right, how about this? Do you ever see a sunset? And you can come to know the sunset in a very simple way, or you can have great meaning and significance behind it and say, wow, this is a sunset. I want to come closer to the creator of the sunset, all right? So epistemology has a lot to do with every single day living experience. And then finally, what about something like this? You might say, oh, it's a bum, it's a homeless guy. Or maybe you say, this is a creature of God, a child of God made to his image and likeness, okay? How much we know about this creature means a lot about how we live our lives, okay? So this is why epistemology is extremely important. And again, that diagram shows that the Summa begins with God, it ends with God, and our lives are a journey back to God. And of course, creation and man, our return back, Jesus Christ, of course, the perfect man, God and man in the same person, the sacraments at the end of the Summa, very, very important, grace, of course, and there's so much more, but we're going to get into all that as we dig into the Summa. So that does it. The first of two words that I really want to stress in these lessons that you need to know is epistemology, the study of knowledge. And hopefully after this brief tutorial, you understand why this is important to the Summa and also important to our everyday life. Please comment below. Please like it if you enjoy learning about the Summa. And I'll see you in our next session of St. Thomas Aquinas for Everyone. God bless you. I'm Dave Palmer.